Hey everyone, welcome back to the Tsundoku YouTube channel. This is Abs from the Brother Smash channel, which is our gaming channel. If you want to check that out, you can go into the little box down.
It's still dead.
It's still dead. But like this channel's also still kind of dead. They're both kind of dead.
It's kind of like the whenever we want.
We're trying our best, so bear with us for that. But Abe is here to talk about the Netflix Death Note movie. Now this is a highly controversial topic.
Everyone hates it.
Everyone hates it.
But I think there is a silver lining to it. As me and Andrew are watching it, we were both piecing some things together, which we got kind of a fan theory, and I haven't seen it around on the internet. No one's pointing this out yet. Should we just jump right into it?
Well, the only thing that I've seen so far on the internet is that it's terrible, right?
Right, yeah.
So,
and what went wrong and
crap like that. But instead of what went wrong, let us tell you what went right. So
and what could have gone even righter.
Spoiler alert with this, by the way. If you haven't seen it, or if you care to watch it before, like I would watch this. I would watch it.
Yeah, we're going into spoiler territory.
Yeah, for sure. So like, be careful with that. So, Our theory is, first of all, I liked the movie. I thought it was actually pretty good. I didn't think it was like filmed well, but I
thought it was better than the third live-action movie produced in Japan, where Elle drove a ice cream truck and was kidnapping orphans and was fighting bioterrorism, and Light wasn't even in it.
Hardly any of the Japanese movies were what I would consider good. And they were completely off the rails as far as, like, you want to talk how this one, people are pissed that this one doesn't follow the manga specifically, like to a T. Neither did the Japanese books to any, or to the Japanese movies to any extent.
They're pretty.
It was like half and half. This one at least was like, it knew it was an American movie and it treated itself like an American movie. The other one was like, we're gonna try to be the manga specifically, kind of.
It did good for considering they had like 2 movies.
I was not a fan.
To finish up the whole story.
I like the Netflix movie like twice as much as I like the Japanese.
All right, but the reason why we kind of thought it was good, we're about to explain, because it did have its flaws, and we'll talk about that. But I had this theory that what if it's a sequel? Like, what if it takes place...
A sequel of this?
Yeah,
what if
it takes place 9 real-world years after the conclusion of Death Note, after Light dies? Because you'll notice in the end of... this is something that he pointed out. At the end of the last book in the series, they mentioned that within a year, the world had kind of gone back to normal. There's crime again, there's war
Matsuda
again.
and what's this bucket are talking.
Right.
They're walking around the street. They're like, it's still crap after all this time. Kira did, like, ultimately nothing because everything's back to normal, right?
Right. So, we got a couple reasons why we believe it takes place after. One... you'll notice that when they get the Death Note, it's already got some notes scrawled in it, and it's had previous owners, and Ryuk is open about the fact that it's had previous owners.
Right. So we're assuming that the previous owners would be
Light Yagami, and then
like the original Light, right? Because this guy's Light, what's his name?
Light Turner.
Light Turner. Okay, so Light Turner versus Light Yagami. Yagami was obviously first. He's from this story, and we're assuming, Abe and I, that Light Turner is this new story, and the two are completely separate people, right? But still in the same, like, canon almost, the same timeline.
Yeah, and so some of the reasons for that, you'll notice when in the American Netflix live action, when Light Turner is deciding on what kind of alias he wants to go by for people suddenly showing up dead, he goes with the name Kira, and he points out, oh yeah, it's a Japanese name, and then when Elle does some, like, investigating, he finds out,
like, why Kira?
He mentions that they thought the name Kira was a diversion to bring them to Japan. So why would it be a diversion? If they said it's because Kira kind of sounds like a Japanese mispronunciation of the word killer. That's stretching it a bit too far, especially when they mention it was already like named after some other god or whatever. But just the fact, divert him to Japan. Well, what happened in Japan that would make you immediately start researching there? So then there's another thing. Do you want to get another one?
So another one would be that immediately. So Light is killing people for like months, and then even months turn into years, and it becomes crazy. And only then do people actually start recognizing Kira as a god, and they become like cults for Kira, right? Only at the end of the book, the very final scene you have of Death Note, you have
like actual
that procession of like candle people. They've all got the cloaks and stuff like that.
And this happens immediately. Like there is some low key kind of Kira is my savior type stuff.
Yeah, but nothing crazy like that. So in the Netflix film,
that happens immediately.
Yeah, like immediately after he starts writing notes,
they also
we get these
mention
cults popping up, which would make sense if they were already in existence beforehand.
Right.
And at the end of Death Note, they mention that people are waiting for Kira to come back. They're saying that, oh no, he's probably just on a hiatus, and Matsuda's talking with the other guy.
And they specifically meant one of the news reports that you see like in the background of the Netflix movie says not who is Kira, it says the return of Kira.
Yes.
So
it's return of Kira.
So they're referring to how can you return if this is the first time? It's a return.
It's Kira from the original Death Note. So something else is Ryuk in the film is very like he wants to egg Turner on. He's like, oh come on, let's do it. Just write a name down. Let's see what happens. All this crazy stuff.
Yeah,
he wasn't like that in this. He was just very bored.
Right. In this he was like, I'm a bored god. Let's toss down a notebook and just see what happens.
So he kills Light at the end of this because he's bored. He gives the notebook in the beginning because he's bored. Let's see what Light can do with his notebook. And then Light does all that he can do, and he sees that he's done, and he loses. So he kills him. Right. So he takes the notebook back. We're assuming. Because he has his name, he has it, he owns it last. Like, he rewrites his name down, done. So we're assuming he takes it back, years pass, whatever, and he chucks it back down, and then who finds it but this American Turner kid from Seattle?
Right, and Ryuk wasn't, in this one, Ryuk wasn't interested in Light using his powers for justice and for good and all that. He just wanted him to use it so he could see what happened.
Yeah,
but in this one, he specifically is like, oh, why don't you write a name of some evil people? Because
let's just
he specifically targeted a kid who's got a warped sense of justice because of some stuff that happened to his mom got killed in a car accident or something, or a murder.
Somebody killed him. Yeah, right, somebody killed her.
A murderer got off for killing his mother, like he didn't get tried or whatever, and the dad was a police officer who could have done more maybe, but didn't.
Yeah, they didn't really go into a lot of depth.
The kid's already got a warped sense of justice. He seems like someone who's predispositioned to start killing off criminals. And so Ryuk, maybe missing his old buddy Light, was like, why don't you use the notebook to get your own justice or whatever.
For sure.
Or he didn't care at all. If Light Yagami had just used it to kill a bunch of people, he would have still found it interesting. But you'll notice that when Ryuk is having the most fun here, it's when Light is like, I will have justice, I will be the god of the... It's like he wants second Light.
Exactly. And Ryuk actually remarks in the very beginning of Death Note, when Light has filled up pages and pages worth of names, he's like, wow, you've been busy, this is awesome. He's excited about it, right? So he wants that feeling again. Also, being as skeptical of...
And in that same scene, let me cut you off really quick. In that same scene, he mentions that he's only ever heard of notebooks getting into human hands before, but he's never seen it himself, and it's never happened to him. So that means that
his first opportunity is Yagami, and he goes bananas with it.
But when the Netflix guy gets it, of course, he's got multiple users before that. And in the marginal notes of the Death Note is scrawled the words, don't trust Ryuk, or something like that. So it's like the person who had the notebook previous...
was skeptical, as Yagami was, of everyone, Ryuk included.
And guess who killed Light Yagami?
Ryuk.
So, but that didn't necessarily need to be written by Light.
Yeah.
But because there were other people in between.
Yeah.
But
we're assuming.
It could have been. Who knows? Maybe.
Another thing is so let's talk about for a second the fact that everyone's upset that the L in the Netflix version is a Black American older male person, right? Instead of this English
and that
scrunched over L that we used to have, right? So L was from this like orphanage sort of thing.
Yeah.
Essentially. And for like super gifted youngsters, I guess. And they're training these people to be professors. Well, Watari was in charge in the manga. Watari was in charge of the orphanage in the beginning. And he created it and made it and had all these kids come in. This is where we get L.
Near and Mellow.
Yeah, exactly. Right? So L gets killed, Watari gets killed. We get another Watari. what these guys, their names are not Watari. Watari is like the title, I guess. Kind of like L is not actually his name.
There are multiple Wataris.
Yeah, so in this series alone, we have 2 Wataris. And in this Death Note series, we have another Watari. The weird thing is, the first 2 Wataris in this, their names are something different. But in the Death Note, in the Netflix series, it seems like his name's actually Watari, which is odd. Like, Light uses that name to control him.
Yeah, so that's kind of an inconsistency. So he just writes down the name Watari, which probably wasn't his name, unless it was, and he was just born with the name Watari, no first or last name.
And he became this.
And he became a guy with the title of Watari, and then it was like, oh, should we change his name to Bob as his code name or something? It's like, no, then they'll know my name was Watari. So,
but the thing about this, the whole point I'm trying to get to is that in this series, the orphanage place, the location was still around, and
yeah, it was up and functioning, and Nier and Mello came from it, but it was closed down
and like destroyed
9 years later.
Yes, during the Netflix
the American
movie,
one,
right? So also this is something awesome that I found out actually when Abe and I were doing brief research before the start of this video, was that in the very end, the very final chapter of Death Note, Nier calls Matsuda and the other guy, what's his name, like Ebi or something like that. He calls him and he says, hey, listen, I need your help. I have some information from L. Okay. So L is back in this. The letter that L uses in the last chapter is different from the letter that L uses in the first chapter. It's stylized differently. Not only that, but we watch L die in the book, right? So we would assume that there's another L. What if
this is all in this one?
Yeah,
so it's not the Netflix one.
What if the second L at the end of the actual manga,
whose identity is never revealed,
this black African American character that it seems like the internet and most people who have watched the film love to hate?
I think it's split 50-50. I think most people kind of enjoyed him. He gave a great performance. I
thought it was a good movie,
totally
guys. Like, I shouldn't like it. I should be true to stuff, but seeing it as a sequel really makes it great. It makes it so good.
My theory is that they wrote it as a sequel. Like, some diehard fan was like, let's make a sequel set in America. 9 years later, continue the story. And then they probably handed it to a producer and said, wait, so you're making a sequel for an original movie that we're going to make. You're going to make it a sequel of a comic book that got discontinued 9 years ago?
Yeah, right.
And then they said, there's no money in that. Change the names. Make him Light Turner. And his name was probably like Steve Turner, or I don't know, Johnson Turner. Something. And then they were probably like, oh no, change that to Light and Mia, or Misa. And then they're like, maybe Light Turner and Mia. Like, just trying to give them as much wiggle room as possible. But the point is,
But they left stuff in there. Like the fact that on the news it says the return of Kira. Like, it would make sense.
It's like they said, okay,
it makes contextual
but we're going to
sense
change it
for
as little as possible.
Yeah. It makes contextual sense for a sequel. It seems better as a sequel. The only weird part, again, like the Watari thing, is that the rules of the Death Note are not consistent. There's one specific rule, it's like 30-something, that says that if your name's written down and you destroy that piece of the Death Note, you still die regardless.
It specifically says if it's burned.
Yeah, right? So,
and then in this one, they're like,
it's like, no, if you burn, which is weird. So that's an inconsistency number one. And inconsistency number two
and also, just in case someone's wondering, maybe it was like a different Death Note, like Ryuk got a different one because it looks a bit different, because it used to be black pages with white text, now it's white with black text for the rules. Even if that's the case, they still go out to mention that all of the Death Notes have the same rules that they operate under.
Yeah, true.
So that is an inconsistency.
So it's just weird, but I mean, that's just the movie adaptation, I suppose. But then the other weird inconsistency is that when the girlfriend touches the book, she can't see Ryuk, right?
And there's no point for that.
There's really no point for that at all.
Because he ends up
another weird thing.
He's like, well, Ryuk's a thing anyway. Like, he tells her that Ryuk is a thing, and then Ryuk says this. Like, there is no...
I wish they would have let her see him. I thought it would have been cooler if she had known. Just a secondary freak-out scene with her losing her mind instead of him hiding under a desk like a bitch.
I gotta say this really quick, just unrelated to the theory. just comparing Light Yagami and
Light Turner
and the two L's or whatever, I think that Light Turner was clearly not a sociopath type.
Yeah,
dude.
right.
Like Light Yagami
coerced into it.
Light Yagami was immediately like, let's manipulate people, and he's like faking smiles and all that, and it just comes naturally to him.
Yeah.
And he's more focused on creating his perfect godly world than whatever. This dude's just like, yeah, I want to get laid, and I want to kill some bullies. And people who mess with my mom or whatever.
And he actually tried Light Turner tried to stop it multiple times, and the Mia girl was like, no.
Yeah, she was the craziest one in this.
Yeah, so she was definitely more psychotic than Light Yagami was. Or
Right.
Light Turner. Not more than Light Yagami, but more than Light Turner.
Mm-hmm.
On the same level of, like, if she had gotten it instead of Turner, it would have been a completely different movie.
And Mia and Misa are completely different characters. There's no even...
Yeah,
it's just,
Misa was like, please use me to whatever advantage you see fit. And the other girl's like, haha, I'll kill you if I don't get my way.
right, yeah.
Insane.
And then L, I mean, I think they are obviously two different L's.
Yeah, but this one was good.
Either way, like, they're both amazing, in my opinion. But what I noticed was they're slightly different things. So the first L, they both had the same, like, hunched up... kind of socially awkward, shifty-eyed type thing about him.
Yeah.
Except the first L was so mellowed out. Like, he was
I
just
really liked how confident Black American L was.
Yeah, except one thing about him, though, was... and I like this, his voice would kind of shake. Like, when he could... And that tells you... That was realistic, because it's like, this guy's just been... holed up in an orphanage behind books his whole life.
Forever.
So when he confronts a killer... He was kind of like, yeah, I think you're Kira or whatever. I'm not doing it right, but there was
a good movie.
It was
guys,
like,
please watch it again. If you have already seen it, please watch it again with the idea of a sequel
fan theory
in your context.
Fan theory in mind.
And if you haven't seen it, give it a shot because it's definitely worth the hour and 50 whatever minutes that it took. Like, it's not bad. There's way worse shit that you could watch on Netflix.
With that said, read these first or watch these first.
For sure. Like the manga's way better than the anime. The manga's way better than
just consider
than the
it.
Movies.
Consider it.
The manga is the purest.
Consider it. If you can't consider it a sequel, like an unofficial sequel, then consider it some really high budgeted fan fiction. Because it's at least worth that, Like it. Just go with us on this one.
Thanks for watching.
Peace.
We'll catch you guys later.